Danielle, we're excited to have you today on the Learning Elevated podcast. We'll just jump right into it. Danielle Ferretti, of course, program manager, learning technology at Netflix. Excited to have you on the show.
Thanks, Rob and Emily. I'm happy to be here.
So I want to kind of start off, level set, get a little understanding. Can you tell us a little bit about the learning program that you run at Netflix, as well as just sort of your background in learning and development?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with Netflix a little over a year at this point. I do work closely with our customer service organization. And most recently, I recently stepped into this learning technology program manager role. And with this role, I now work with other teams across Netflix, which is really exciting. So I get to, see what else is going on outside of the customer service organization. So related to customer service, probably for the past year, I was leading in the Docebo implementation for that organization. So really our end users were all of our outsourced customer service agents around the world, and we have over 6,000. So whenever you call in or chat into Netflix, whether it's, you have a tech issue you're trying to resolve, you want to call in and complain about my favorite show just left, what's happening? We get everything under the sun. Those would be our customer service agents that support you. So we rolled out Docebo to all of our customer service agents, and this is where they access their onboarding as well as continuous learning and any training that they need to take based on product changes or rollouts. And there's obviously a lot of change happening with Netflix, so we want to make sure that they're kept up to date and provide the best possible customer service. That's ultimately our end goal. I work with other teams. So another example would be our partner marketing team. So a similar use case in that we have thousands of external partner sales reps. So think Comcast, we have sales reps that might be working in a call center, a retail store, or they might be selling door to door. And really what their job is to sell bundles. So I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I have a Comcast Netflix bundle. So that's ultimately what they do is you have customers coming in purchasing Comcast. Well, why not add Netflix to it? Let's get them excited about all these new shows coming out. So that is my latest and greatest project. I will be working on implementing a new platform for that end user base.
Well, look, Danielle, you brought it up. So do you guys have a specific training plan to help people deal with the taking off of The Office from Netflix?
Yeah,
I wasn't going to bring it up.
I know. I'm sad too. And trust me, we've heard all about it. It is
Sure.
It's pretty funny what customers will call in about. And it's like, these poor agents, they really have no say about this stuff, but we teach them how to be super empathetic and okay, well, here's some other suggestions of shows, although I don't know if anything can replace The Office, but
It certainly can't, but I love it.
So one of the things that we're kind of diving into on the show for this season is the idea of kind of like a learning culture, depending on who your learner are and just how you're kind of building not necessarily the desire, but like the want to always be in there and learning new things. And sometimes it's a necessity of their job. Other times it's, their own sort of desire to learn a little bit more. Can you tell me a little bit about what learning culture as a sort of a theory means to Netflix, and a little bit about kind of how you worked through the implementation to build in some of those cultural elements?
Yeah. So, learning at Netflix is really connected to our culture. So, we have all of our core values, but really they revolve around people over process. And we really value independent decision making. So I'm just thinking back to, when I first joined Netflix and when we were talking about making this transition toward a more innovative learning experience, more impactful. A lot of the time you think that there's just this whole process that you need to follow in order to make a decision like that. And luckily, that's not the case at Netflix. I remember, again, just a couple months in being a part of this huge decision. Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it. Let's try something new, try something innovative. And with this approach, we are really able to be more innovative, flexible, fun, stimulating, and overall just successful. So that was a really exciting thing to be a part of. And then, it's really carried over through our implementation and rollout. I always tell the team, this is just the beginning. Yeah, we rolled out globally to all of our customer service agents, but there's so much more we can be doing. Like, on our roadmap for next year, which I'm kind of driving right now, we have gamification, we have, more automation we're going to build into it, leveraging more AI, those types of things. So it's going to be another really, really exciting year for our team.
That's incredible to hear. I know that oftentimes in implementation, there might be certain topics or workflows, even if you want to get granular, that come up that you guys maybe didn't think about. I'm curious about kind of what role the Docebo implementation played in kind of driving that learning culture that you describe as being certainly one, that is notable.
Mm-hmm. So I think, implementation was a really helpful process for us. I consider myself a very organized person, and I was project managing this really from the start to finish. But, I just remember through the implementation process, it was really helpful to kind of discover new things. And, as we were really diving into our use case and understanding, like, how can we be better? It's not just a matter of taking what we're currently doing and converting it, to e-learning and rolling it out via Docebo. It's really about how we can level up even more. So I remember just having some really just honest conversations about, yeah, we could just take this and do a simple swap, but let's really take advantage of this time. Let's do something really amazing. And, it was about finding a balance. So did we roll out with every possible feature? No, because we really did need to take a step back and understand our use case. But we also wanted to, make sure that, again, we were really taking advantage of this new technology, which was such a level up from what we were using before. We were using an internally built platform, and, our engineers are absolutely amazing, but I think, they're all about efficiency and not necessarily like innovation and what's going to be engaging for learners. So it's nice to be able to have a platform where we can have a bit of both.
So during your implementation, and for folks out there that might be listening and thinking, okay, I'm about to go through this, what do you think are like the key components that, obviously organization probably being top and foremost, but what are the key components that you think you sort of put into practice that really help to lead to success?
So I think, building out a very clear project timeline is, the most important thing. So, it's interesting because I have a background in K-12 education. So for all those teachers out there, you've probably heard about backwards planning and always, keeping that angle in mind and building from there. So that's one thing that I, definitely took into consideration when building out this project plan is what is our end goal and how can I build a project plan around that? So, there's a lot that went into it, but it was super important to stay organized. There were a lot of people involved. So, keeping SMEs and key stakeholders closely aligned with, the project timeline. So we use Asana at Netflix to track all of these, types of projects. And that was so important to our success, just because it kept everyone in the loop. Anyone could jump in at any time to see where we were at. And even now, you know, jumping into another implementation with another team, I'm able to leverage that project plan. So that's been super helpful.
Yeah, begin with the end in mind. I also have a background in teaching K through 12, so music to my ears. I love that. And I think you're right. It makes so much sense, especially when you're starting kind of, like you said, from like ground zero. And you know, you can do all of the things that seem to make sense, but unless you have your end goal and you keep that the main thing, then you kind of get a little bit lost. So I'm curious specifically, when you started thinking about the future and you started identifying, okay, this is where in a year from now we want to be able to say XYZ. How did implementation kind of come alongside you to support that? Maybe give some specifics if you can.
Yeah, so I think, again, during implementation, it was helpful to have someone on the Docebo end to talk through all these possibilities. You know, I know for the customer service organization, we had a very complex use case in that we were dealing with 10 training languages, thousands of agents all over the world. And, you know, we had to kind of find some workarounds, you know. And I think, you know, during implementation, our implementation specialist really helped with this. I also think it was nice to talk scalability as well. You know, what's going to be best for our organization in the long run. Yeah, we could roll this out now, but ultimately, you know, we were trying to find the right balance between efficiency and innovation, which was definitely challenging. But when you have someone who's an expert on the platform, you know, they bring a unique perspective. And so I really feel like we made a really great team during the implementation phase.
I'm always curious, and I mean, this is probably just my background in marketing, and I'm always interested to hear about, you know, the implementations happen. Now it's time to actually like put this out into the real world and see how it does. You know, what did you guys do to raise the awareness of it, to start sort of driving that adoption? Can you walk me through obviously a little bit of the marketing elements, but just sort of that internal comms and the overall approach to, hey, this is now available to you, this is how it works, you know, that whole process.
Mm-hmm. So we started socializing this idea very early on. So I think that was key, is that we kept everyone in the loop. You know, we were asking our key stakeholders in all of our different regions for their opinions and thoughts. We also, of course, with it being Netflix, like we really put a lot of emphasis on branding. We wanted this to feel like Netflix. And, you know, I already mentioned that we were using an internally built platform prior. I think most people would be pretty shocked how bare bones it was, you know, to the point where we weren't even leveraging our Netflix colors, red and black. You know, it was blue and gray. I'm like, what's going on here? You know, you might see, you know, a couple Netflix images here and there, but it was pretty bare. So we knew like, oh, we have such a huge opportunity here. And so with Docebo, with, you know, the ability to white label and really customize the platform experience for our learners, that was huge. So, you know, I remember being a part of multiple presentations, you know, in our EMEA region, APAC, LATAM, and kind of doing teaser videos of what's coming down the line. You know, we did, actually the entire customer service org was involved in deciding on a name for the platform. We did surveys around that, you know, so we did decide on Stream University. We went through the whole logo development, and that started to be used, you know, in all of our communications, which was just a fun little element. So I think that all really led to this moment of, oh my gosh, this is launching. And I just remember how exciting that week was and how quiet it was. So what I mean by that is I thought, okay, this is kind of crazy. Like all of these users are going to be logging in over the next week or so. I'm expecting like, okay, we might have some technical issues. We might have something going on, but we really didn't. So, and then watching all the feedback come in, we did a really detailed survey for users to take after taking some time to explore the platform, take an intro e-learning, and it was amazing, the feedback we got. And I was able to kind of analyze that and share that out to the rest of the organization. And it just was such a great culmination to this global launch, seeing how excited our learners were. And also that they were like ready for more too. Like I just can't, if this is the initial launch, like I can't wait to see where we're going to be a year from now. So it was a really exciting time.
What's so cool about this particular answer is, so I'm actually on our sales team. So I speak with prospective Docebo clients day in and day out. And it's so funny because sometimes when we say, yeah, Netflix is a client, they think that what Netflix is doing is totally impossible for them. But what you just described is so accessible and so easy. And all it takes is just that little passion to actually make it happen, and you guys clearly had a very successful, go live or whatever you want to call it. And I just love that. I love how simple it was and how effective it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anyone could do what we did. It is about having a good team. And I will be honest that we were lacking resources in certain areas of our implementation. So, we had to outsource a couple things. We actually had to say, okay, we're going to hold off on rolling out this feature because we just don't have the tech resource right now. And that's okay. Again, you kind of have to find what works for you, what resources you have available. But again, it's just, at least you're taking that step in the right direction. And, things will fall into place. But I know that's been a topic of conversation, even with other teams, like, oh, how did you find that resource? And it's, again, you figure it out with your team. So.
Yeah. So what, in terms of like when you guys, if you could go back in your mind to when you guys were actually looking for an LMS, what were some of the key features that you knew were kind of must-haves, we'd like to have, and this would be a cool cherry on top?
Mm-hmm. So I think, we were really looking for a platform that was customizable. So what I already mentioned, we wanted it to look and feel like Netflix. Super important to us. I think it was really awesome that Docebo, your design is kind of based off Netflix anyways. When you have your streaming rows of content, like, oh, perfect. That's already catered to us, So that was a big item. We knew we wanted something that had gamification as an option. Again, that's not something we rolled out at launch, but it's on our roadmap this year. So we're excited about that. I think a nice to have, again, as I mentioned earlier, we deal with 10 different training languages. So that was one efficiency that our internal platform had, is that we could kind of bundle everything in together and you have all those language variations tied together. With Docebo, it is a little, everything is a standalone course. So I think that was one thing we kind of had to wrap our mind around. The process is a bit different, setting up these courses, looking at data, and even moving to an e-learning tool. The process is a bit more complicated when it comes to localization. But again, it's, you have to really take a step back and keep that end goal in mind. Yes, efficiency is important, but innovation is really, what we were prioritizing. So I think, again, in some situations, our process has gotten a little bit longer when it comes to localizing and setting up courses, but ultimately, the training we're rolling out is more impactful.
So on that note, I'm always curious to understand what does the process look like for the course development side of things? I mean, obviously most of the courses that you're rolling out are very specific to Netflix, and the information that your learners need. So can you just sort of walk us through what that typical, content development process looks like for your team?
Yeah, so we leverage the Articulate 360 suite of tools. We do, I have a very large global L&D team, and we have teams based in region. So we have an EMEA team, an APAC team, a LATAM team, and then we have a team that sits, in California, and we kind of oversee any global initiatives. But then on the regional level, those teams will kind of take it from there. So, when we develop a course, there's obviously it starts with some sort of need, whether it's a product change or rollout, and we need to train agents on a new feature or, something like that. So we do develop it largely in Rise 360, a part of that suite of tools. We have a pretty rigorous review process that's put in place. And then we do have an internal localization team. So we work with them to, export our courses as XLIF, and they'll translate and we get them back. And then from there, we'll export from Rise 360 and set it up in Docebo. We have an amazing digital learning developer on the team who has a background in coding. Oh my gosh, I've learned so much from him. He's amazing. He has set up some automations for us. And I just get so excited when he sets these things up. He even built a little app to house all these automations. And I'm like, he just blows my mind. But so something simple like, okay, I really don't want to have to go and create a course for every language manually. Like, there's got to be a way to do this quicker. So, we started talking API, kind of looking into, what's possible with Docebo. And I swear to God, within a week or two, he had this app built out where you can literally plug in all the course names, descriptions, language, all of that. And with a click of the button, all 10 are created at once. So those are the types of things where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Like, this speeds up our process quite a bit. So it's great to have him on the team.
So this next question is a whopper. It's a big one. I'm going to ask it, and feel free to take a minute because it's just,
wow, I always feel build up, Emily. Come on, let's go.
Okay, I'm just going to say it. How do you guys measure success?
Yeah, so, and I'm going to be honest here. This is an area of opportunity for our team.
Yeah.
I think when you talk about training measurement and, ROI, like those are obviously big buzzwords when it comes to like leadership on teams. They always want to see like, okay, what truly is the impact here? So prior to rolling out Docebo, we didn't do a whole lot of that. And, we didn't have a lot of tracking and reporting capabilities. So that was actually another thing that we were really looking for. Even the simple fact of being able to say like someone completed their training or didn't, that's a big deal. So now, with that type of information, again, on our roadmap is a Tableau integration where we can really line that up next to our agent KPIs, different things that their performance is measured on. And really being able to compare the two and see like where this training made an impact. And that's something that we haven't done before. So I'm really excited to be able to do that. But I would say right now we're really focused just on completion, building in knowledge checks, building in time for managers to check in with agents and coach them, on areas that they need it. But I'm really looking forward to building out kind of a custom dashboard where we're able to bundle everything in one, because that's going to be just so amazing for all of our stakeholders to be able to see.
I think, in speaking with people across the podcast and in different areas on that topic, it's a varying scale of how efficient they're able to do it or how effective they feel they're able to do it. But there's always that kind of like, we have a few metrics that we do want to measure, but then how do we kind of like snapshot it so we can regularly be checking and see like, is it pacing? Is it going up? So, it sounds like you're on the right track and towards it. Have you noticed over the last year, has there been any interesting shifts, I guess, or upticks in, people taking classes, completing it, or even seeing what learning can do to somebody's effectiveness in the job, even as it relates to COVID? Like, have you noticed that people are they taking more online learning opportunities because of that? I'm just sort of curious if you are kind of, to the degree you're able to right now, seeing any sort of impact back shows with that.
Yeah, definitely. With our agent user base, their learning time is a little bit more structured. So it's not so much, they log in when they want and take the training when they want. It's usually, they are scheduled to take a training. One initiative that we have put in place this year is, the ability for agents to take continuous learning courses based on where they feel they can improve. So again, this is scheduled time, but they get 15 minutes a week where they can go in, and we are building out a library. I think we have around 20 courses in there right now, which is actually a pretty good amount when you think about we never had anything like this before. And agents can go in, they'll click in, they can read a little blurb about it, the objectives, they can see how long this course will take. So most of them are 15 minutes. So it's just like a one-time thing that week, or it could be something longer that they would carry into next week. And they can go in and just self-enroll. So we've gotten great feedback on this. We're seeing a lot of enrollments. We have also given, managers the ability to suggest or enroll someone on their team in one of those courses. So it's kind of two different options. They can self-enroll, or managers can say, hey, I think this would really, help in this certain area that I'm coaching you on this week. So we've definitely seen a lot of enrollments in these courses, and we've received feedback. We'd love to see more courses, or like, we're thinking through a way of how we can allow learners to suggest courses that they want to take that maybe don't exist now, but it's something that we can add in the future. But it's something we'll be prioritizing this year. We really want to build that out. Right now, it all kind of exists as one row in Docebo, but we want to be able to kind of create more specific rows based on content, so it's easier for them to like jump into an area that they want to improve in.
So yeah, a lot of the measurements are maybe qualitative right now rather than quantitative, but that still, speaks to certainly some effectiveness and some success for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm curious too, because you have mentioned multiple kind of like future projections of things that you guys are looking to do. Is there anything else, if I were to just straight up ask you, like, what's up for 2021? Is there anything you haven't mentioned yet by chance that you'd be willing to share, like a bit of a Netflix secret?
Let me think about this one. So I've mentioned gamification. Mm-hmm. I've mentioned the Tableau integration. I've mentioned, additional automations using API. I think maybe one other thing I could share would be our coaching. So right now, this is something that is still being done in our internal platform. And what I mean by that is, every agent has a manager, and they are responsible for coaching them. So they'll listen in on calls, they'll have conversations and, make sure that they're really providing top-notch customer service support. And each week they will select a coaching focus. And, that'll be kind of displayed to the agent as a reminder, here's your area of focus this week. There might be certain follow-up tasks that they do, conversations they have with their manager. This is something that we're looking to house in Docebo. We're thinking potentially the observation checklist functionality. So we have created a task force around this, and we're going to start having conversations, but I'm really excited to see if we'll be able to leverage this feature. I think then we will have more of a cohesive feel in the platform where it's, the agent is not only completing their training, but they're also completing their coaching in the platform versus having kind of two different things going on. So that's another big one on the roadmap.
That's amazing. It'll be great to kind of pull all that together, and it's that full sort of 360. And I feel like we've gone through a full 40 minutes here of binging on all things that are Netflix learning and development. So with that, Danielle, I wanted to say thanks for joining us today. It was really, really great chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
For more information on what we've discussed today, including links to resources and downloadable assets, go to docebo.com/podcast. That's docebo.com/podcast. And while you're there, subscribe to our newsletter.
You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and all other places where you listen to podcasts by searching Learning Elevated. Don't forget to click subscribe so you know when we're disembarking on another floor.